from the aspect of your three communities, your book is called The Healing of the Heart. Sometimes social media is seen as a very negative thing. Perhaps it can be a positive thing. How do you approach it at all? Do you see it as a threat, as a benefit, particularly when you have war, you have connections needed? So, and this is a study about faith communities building mental health to overcome challenges. So what does social media and that connection, positive, negative, or both?
Well, sometimes it's positive, and sometimes I think it's very negative. But then again, it comes back to your own internal health. And a lot of our young people that are getting the news on TikTok, all they're seeing is, and I think the algorithms and how they work, if you're looking at depression or sadness, then that's how you're going to see the next half an hour of your TikTok is going to be full of that. So you watch social media to be entertained or informed, but you've actually become depressed. And I find a lot of our young people are doing that. How do I cope with it? I cope with it because I feel that it's important. Our young people are on TikTok, and they are getting a lot of misinformation. As much as I don't want to see the negative on it, I have to go there, look at it, challenge it, and come up with a very positive message for them. So if they're saying that Islam condones violence, then I have to go back and say, no, this is what the Prophet of Islam said, and this is how he was during war, and I have to do that to counter the negativity that I'm seeing by giving my own positive messages. When we were doing countering violent extremism after 9/11 with our communities, and we were trained to, by Twitter and all these platforms, to send out floods and floods of positive messaging. And we don't have that much of that. As we've seen, because it's war, we've just seen a flood of negativity, graphic images, the victims of Hamas. I can't take those images away. It's very hard for me to also be able to say, that was done in the name of my religion. How do I tell my kids religion is not, Islam is not violent? So I have to have these conversations. My job as a mother and as a leader is to put out the truth about my religion, so that at some point they start seeing that these are evil, but God is watching all of us, and we know the line between good and evil. And as young people, they also have to see that. But if there's a lull in that conversation, or there's a lack of it, then they are only going to see the negativity. So as much as we hate social media, I feel we have to be on it. Rabbis and leaders should be on it.
Rabbi, what would you say?
Well, again, it's a resource or a roadblock. And I think social media has become a reality. I'm not going to sit and pretend that, everybody should limit their time, their screen time. Even though you could turn your phone to black and white, so that it's grayscale, so you don't get so fixated and absorbed into the actual screen. It's all meant to be addicting. It's the race to the bottom of our brainstem. It takes us back to that very core part of the human psyche. And so if the algorithm is meant to take us in a negative way to the bottom of the brainstem, maybe we get back to the other parts. What do I mean by the other part? Because we often talk about in terms of what is the opposite of love? And some people will tell you it's hate. I don't believe it's hate. Some people tell you it's fear. I do believe it's got a healthy element of fear. But I actually believe that the opposite of love is indifference. I didn't come up with that myself. That was the great late Elie Wiesel who said it. And the reality is, we do need to counter the messages. And we're not going to be able to flood the internet enough to change the algorithm of what young people are seeing. But we have to make sure that they're not seeing it by themselves. And even not just young people, but adults. We too sit and we look, what are you doing? And you're sitting in you're sitting on a bus or on the subway, and you're sitting in traffic and you're not driving, and you're looking and you're observing and you're listening and you're getting good information and misinformation. We have to make sure that we're looking at the sources. We have to learn to question what we're reading. We have to make sure that there's space to have the conversation.